Hello, my name is Assumpta and welcome to RV Creations TV, a home for busy professionals and entrepreneurs who want to plan a timeless, sophisticated and unforgettable wedding celebration or special event. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi everyone. As you can tell from the title, today I am sharing with you 10 must-haves for your wedding planning so you don't miss anything. If that is of interest to you, then stay tuned. So the first thing I'm going to start with is a vision. It probably sounds a little bit strange, but you need to have a vision. Write it down and make it plain. This is me getting a little bit biblical on you. I am Christian, but not all of my couples are. But I digress. Write the vision and make it plain. Put it down on paper, in notes in your phone, type it on your computer, but just write it out somewhere. I think it's more powerful to handwrite it. Start with the end in mind. What do you want your day to look like? And that way it's easier to work backwards. So when you know what the big picture is, you can then take the steps backwards to figure out how to get you to that point. So yeah, start with a vision. The next thing you need to have is a checklist. There are so many checklists floating around on the internet, and I am currently working on the ultimate checklist for you. Depending on when you're watching this video, it might be out already, in which case it will be linked below, but pop back in a week's time, it will be available for you. When you're planning a wedding, there's so many things that could be easily missed if you do not have a checklist. As I said, you can download one, you can download mine, or you can make one of your own. But if you've never planned a wedding or event before, I would highly recommend seeking one out that you can then tick off as you go along to ensure that you don't actually miss anything out. Feel free to add your own important bits, especially if you are having a cultural wedding. There may be things that aren't in generic lists that you can't forget, so make sure to add the bits that you need to know as well. The next thing on the list is a budget. Sounds pretty obvious. No matter what you're doing, it always really helps to have a budget, whether you're buying a house, renovating a room, planning a wedding. If you don't have a budget, you can easily end up overspending, and that's not what we want to be doing out here. Even if your budget is £1,000,000, you need to be able to keep track of it so that when you hit that £1,000,000 threshold, you stop spending. Once you do create your budget, you also need to talk about your priorities, because everybody's priorities in their wedding are different. Some of my couples are really particular about the aesthetics and want a stunning building to get married in, while others are super particular about the food, so they know that the food selection has to be on point, or the flowers, or anything, or the music, for example. When you know those things, you can allocate your budget. When you know those things, you can allocate your budget accordingly. You might want to spend a larger percentage of your budget on flowers, for example, or the top DJ if that's really important to you. So make sure you get your budget in check. Honestly, it can really decimate your wedding if you don't get it together. Just stay on top of it. Next up is the legalities. You need to have that in place to be able to get married. And it's something you need to think about within your wedding planning. If you are a UK bride or groom, have you given notice? Maybe you're wondering what it means to give notice. Quite simply, giving notice is a legal statement of your intention to marry. Without it, you can't legally get married. Make sure you factor in enough time for all of this stuff, because sometimes if you, for example, your local authority is quite busy, it may be weeks before you can get an appointment. If you're planning to have a shotgun wedding or running off to elope, it may not be a legally binding ceremony that you're going to have if you haven't gotten all your paperwork in order. So please don't forget that. You don't want that stress weeks or days before your wedding. Make sure you organize it in enough time. Another thing I believe you need to have is a guest list. Unless you're having a free-for-all and just kind of like whispering into the wind and maybe throwing a banner outside and saying anybody can come, I would highly recommend you sit down with your partner and possibly your family too to write down who will be invited to this wedding. Your guest list can impact your budget. It also lets you know the size of venue that you'll want to hire, because you need space to accommodate all of these guests. So definitely make sure you pen down a guest list. And also make sure you have a way of tracking that guest list, or rather the RSVPs when they come in. You want to know how many of the people that you've invited can actually make it to your wedding. Next up, you need a detailed plan. And by that, I mean maybe like a floor plan. You would work on that with your decorator or your florist or your wedding planner, or all of them, depending on if you're hiring all of those multiple people. I say that you need one of these because even if you've planned your wedding yourself, on the day you're going to be getting yourself ready for the ceremony and the reception, and all of the people bringing it all together, unless it's a DIY wedding and you're doing it yourself, need to know where the tables are supposed to be, where you want the cake to be, maybe where you want all of the different things that you've planned for the day. There needs to be some sort of visual representation, even if it's just a quick sketch that you do with the placement of all the things that you want and a rough floor plan. I would highly, highly recommend that you have to have this while you're wedding planning. It will come along the journey. It's something that you don't need right away, but as you go along, you definitely want to create this. Following on from my last point, you need a seating plan. I know there are some people out here who will tell you you don't need a seating chart. Don't listen to those people. Over here, we're more organised. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to lie to you, creating a seating chart can be stressful. Except for like my smaller celebrations, larger weddings, all of my couples, and myself and my husband included when we were planning our weddings, this was one of the banes of our lives, figuring out where to seat everybody. But it was so worth the trouble. You don't want your guests to rock up to your wedding and then just sort of look around and think, "Ooh, do we sit anywhere?" Even if you don't figure out specifically where they should sit, although if you do, it helps your catering staff if people have dietary requirements. That's another video for another day. You can tell them what table they're supposed to be on, and then they can figure out where they want to sit on that table. If you allow people to sit anywhere, you're going to end up with people trying to hog seats, or maybe people sitting together in odd numbers, and then you have this like one loose chair here and one loose chair on the other side of the room, and then a couple who wants to sit together and they can't. Enhance your guest experience and create that seating plan. Next up, you need a schedule or a timeline, depending on what you want to call it. This is different from the floor plan. This schedule or timeline for your entire day will let everybody know what is happening when, and also set you at ease. This is something that you can do yourself. You can definitely download guides and stuff like that. If you have a planner, they will assist you in creating a timeline for your day. Or if you hire an on-the-day coordinator, they will also help you with this. Depending on the type of venue that you have, maybe the in-house venue coordinator, they don't tend to do it, but they might be able to give you a general idea of the running times of their previous events. But you want to know what time you should be waking up to have your hair and makeup done, you and your bridesmaids, or if you're a groom and you're wanting to get your hair cut that morning. I've seen grooms do that, so it's fresh for the day. What time are you having that done? What time is your baker arriving with your cake? What time is the DJ setting up? What time is the band coming? All of those things need to be scheduled. It, again, like the seating chart, can be a bit tedious in the beginning, but it makes for a far better running order on the day, and it means that whoever you are handing your plans over to, if you have planned the day yourself, knows what's going on, because it's all well and good if this is in your head, but you need to be able to hand it over to someone for them to bring the vision to life. So yeah, a timeline and a schedule is imperative, like super important. Uh-oh. So at this point, I realised that I had missed out something from my list. And so I'm going to fit it in now, but it was meant to go higher in the list, and it is number 9. You need a list of questions for suppliers. This helps you because then you know exactly what you're going to say when you are doing your research and reaching out to different people. Oftentimes, you may not go with the first person you reach out to, but maybe you have great rapport with them and you do decide to choose them. But you want to write your questions down so you don't forget them when you are confronted with new suppliers that you may want to work with on your wedding day. So, yeah, make sure you write a list of pertinent questions that you think you will need to run by them. especially if you are having a multicultural wedding and it may not be something that the person you are speaking to has dealt with before, or perhaps they do have experience. Either way, you want to be sure. So make sure you write those questions down. And my final wedding planner must have is help. I am biased. I know you're going to say that, but trust me when I say I would highly advise, highly, even for a DIY wedding, hire help. You'd be amazed at what you can afford. Make sure you factor this into your wedding. I planned our weddings myself. It wasn't necessarily a DIY wedding, but I did plan them myself because I felt like I was capable of doing it. And my parents often plan events as well. So all of us together, we were able to make it happen. But I did hire an on-the-day coordinator. And honestly, it was worth the money. She and her team were worth their weight in gold. And it made the day run really smoothly. Nobody had to come and ask me any questions. There was another point of call. So if you can, hire a planner to assist you through the whole process. If not, at the very least, hire an on-the-day coordinator. Trust me when I say, if you hire the right person, it will enhance your day, not just for you, but also for your friends and family. It will save you some stress and just free you up to be able to enjoy yourself. And ultimately, that's what you want. You want a fun day where you're celebrating your love and enjoying yourself. Anyway, those are my 10 things that I believe that you must have when wedding planning. Please let me know if I've missed anything out or if you would like to suggest some stuff in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to do so. Head on over to the catalogue library, not sure what it's called, still getting used to this YouTube life, and check out some other videos that might be of use to you during your planning journey. Share this video with the engaged people in your life, don't hoard it to yourself, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye!